Hello friendos and randos, welcome back to another video. Doflamingo has been taking OP09 by storm, and I think ever since the 08.5 meta, where it received the new support from the new Doflamingo starter deck, Doflamingo has been on a tear in the east, and I'm sure that with the bans in place of Annie's Lobby and RP Law in the west as well, from the start of OP08, Doflamingo is going to be tearing it up from OP08.5 right away as well. So let's take a look at the deck list for Blue Doflamingo for OPO 8.5 and 09, and we can talk a little bit about the little changes that you may make for the two different sets and why it's so powerful. As a side note, I'm using this as my Doflamingo Don. I really like this set. So Doflamingo leader effect, very simple. Don times 2. When attacking, you can rest 1 Don and then reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a 4 cost or lower 7 Warlords of the Sea type character card, then you can put it on the field rested. So it allows you to play a card down from the top of your deck instead of from your hand, and you can, instead of paying cost with your Don, you can attach Don on your leader and tap 1 to play 1 down. So effectively you are getting 1 free Don as well as a free card because you're playing it from top of deck instead of from your hand. So these strengths make it very powerful at having a whiteboard as well as having a lot of hand later in the game. Not only that, with the amount of support that it's received over the years, well, I guess 2 years of One Piece card game existing now that we're on the 2nd anniversary, the amount of card draw the deck has is also very powerful and allows you to keep replacing cards while playing your bodies down, and that lets you protect them even better as well. In the past, Doflamingo will have a bit more trouble with running out of gas. If they were to protect their board, then they wouldn't have any hand size left over. But now, because most of the cards they actually replace themselves or have a 6k body, that helps to save on your hand size requirements. So first card in the deck is going to be 3 of the 1 cost Perona. So personally, I'm only running 3 of these because I'm also running the new 1 cost Buggy. And I'm also running it at 3. So I think with the hit rate of this deck, you're actually pretty likely to hit even if you are going to do it blind, but it's still good to have these searchers, these stackers, in order to make sure that you actually hit the correct targets that you want, especially hitting important targets like Jimbe, or hitting the blockers, or making sure that you have a correct stack for the next couple of turns so you can plan it out as well. So notably, Perona lets you look at the top 5 and put it at the top or bottom, while Buggy is on play, you can only look at the top 3 and you have to put it back on top. Buggy being one of the new 2k counters that there was added in the new starter deck 17 as well. So it is a really good card just to include for both 2k counter as well as emergency, being able to use it as a stacker if you don't draw Perona. Next up is 4 of the 1 cost Singoku. This is really good for keeping your deck consistent. You're able to search for your key pieces, namely Jimbe especially, as well as the blocker Boa, both of which I think are the most important pieces of the deck now. The Singoku is really good, that's why I'm playing it at 4 instead of the Perona. The other reason is because when you reuse the Singoku by returning it to your hand with any of your character's effects, you are going +1 on hand cards, whereas for Perona you're merely stacking, you don't actually get additional hand cards. Next is 4 of the most important card in the deck, which is the 4 cost Jimbe. I think many people will tell you that this card makes or breaks the deck in OP08.5 and beyond. Its effect is, on play, you may play a 4 cost or lower 7 Warlord of the Sea type character card other than Jimbe from your hand. So this is, of course, the main reason why Doffy is able to go so wide now, because he's able to play 2 characters at once with this 1 character card. Not only that, you're able to reuse it by either returning it to your hand or taking it back from the trash. So this is really good. Next is the other card which I consider to be the most important card in the deck. 4 cost Boa Hancock, 4 cost 6k body, blocker, and on play, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck, so it's an additional stacker on top of your Perona and Buggy, and you can put them back on top or below, and other than that, you are able to attach 1 rested Don to your leader, so leader or characters. So this is one of the most powerful cards because of this one effect. This means that on your 6th Dawn turn, you are able to develop this Boa, as well as look at your top 3, as well as attach 1 to your leader and then use your leader effect. Previously, before this card existed, your best 6 Dawn turn would be Doffy blocker into leader effect, which is significantly weaker than a 6k body blocker into your leader effect. Not only that, you can also play Jimbe into Boa on the 6 Dawn turn and then use that effect to get your leader effect up. The other useful case is when you are on 10 Dawn turn, you can play down Boa plus another 4 cost plus still use your leader effect. So that turn you are able to play down 3 things from your board or hand. So that is really, really good. These main reasons are why I think this Boa is really, really powerful. It's one of the best cards in the deck available. So mainly the 6 Dawn turn, the 9 Dawn turn, if you have 2 of the Boa, the 10 Dawn turn, all of these previously awkward curves where you weren't able to play down 3 bodies, now you can, and you can flood so much more efficiently now because of that, and in conjunction with the Jimbe, that gives you a lot more power. Now, with all of the 1 cost available here, as well as the Jimbe, one of the other key cards you have is the 4 cost new Law. This Law is really, really good. Its effect is on play, you may return 1 of your characters to your hand. So it can be any character, it can also be a 4 cost or higher character as well. But usually you would want to target your Peronas, your Buggies, your Singokus, or maybe even your Jimbes. And then you may, if your leader has the 7 warlords of the C type, you may return up to 1 4 cost or lower character to its owner's hand. So notably, you can also use this on your own characters. So for example, if on your 2 Dawn turn, you did Perona Singoku, you could also do on your 4 Dawn turn, Jimbe into Law and bounce both to your hand and use them both again next turn. So this is a really, really good card, and it's going to be the most important card for you in the mirror, because this is what will get you your tempo swings. Your opponent plays Jimbe into something, you play Jimbe into Law to answer whatever they played along with the Jimbe. So for example, Jimbe Weevil, then you play Jimbe Law, your Law bounces one of your stackers and then bounces their Weevil. So that gives you much more board presence than them. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about those also important cards that go +1 that I was talking about earlier. First off is the new, again, starter deck 17 4 cost Crocodile. So this card's effect is reveal the top card of your deck, and if that card has the 7 warlords of the C type, draw 2 cards, then place 1 card back on the top of your deck. So this card is really powerful because it is a +1. It goes reveal, draw 2, and then put 1 back. Not only that, if you have a negative or like a not very good stack with one of your stackers, like a Perona Buggy or your Boa, you can use this to kind of fix that if you have a good card in hand. So for example, let's say you had your top 3 showed Buggy. You can play Crocodile, grab the Buggies, and then place a good card like Jimbe or Boa or Law back on the top of your deck. So I find this really good. I've seen a lot of lists cut it down to 3, but personally, I feel that it's good to play all of the +1 cards at 4. The next +1 card is 4 cost Moria. I think this card is also really good because it allows you to reuse your cards that have been KO'd. So most importantly, Jimbe and Boa would be able to be taken back. You can also take back Thriller Bug Pirates type cards, so you can also take back the Perona. So I think the only card in this deck that you can't really take back is the Singoku, your event cards, and also Pudding. Notably, he can't take back Gecko Moria, so you can't take the 4 cost 6k Gecko Moria vanilla off of him, but I think generally you wouldn't want to anyway. Just make sure to play around that if that's the only card in your trash. And the last +1 is the most simple +1, Edward Weevil. On play, draw a card, EB01 support. So it's a very good card, it's a very simple card, and that also makes it very strong. Next, we're going to talk a bit about the 2k counters. So we already have 3 of the Buggy. We are also running 4 of the 4 cost Mihawk from the starter deck. Non-dice 1 when attacking, draw 2 cards and discard 2. So pretty useful for cycling your hand if you have a lot of no counter or you really need to find your Jimbes or Boas that you haven't found earlier. Next is Crocodile. On play, pay 1 Dawn, return a 2 cost or lower character to its owner's hand. So you can use this on your opponent's cheap blockers if they are playing any. So one tech that people have been using for lethal turns is they make sure to stack a 4 cost Law on the top of their deck, and then that way they can swing with all their Dawn on leader, pay 1 Dawn, play the Law or whatever, and then bounce one of your opponent's blockers. You can also do this with the Crocodile, but you just need to make sure you have 1 extra Dawn. The last few characters we have is, first off, I'm playing 2 of the 4-cost vanilla. I think in OP08.5 and 8, the vanilla is not as necessary, so you can maybe even play more 2k counters, or you can play the 6-cost boa. But I think in 09, because red purple Luffy is really popular and the mirror is really popular, 6k bodies are very valuable. Personally, I do see some lists that are running 4 of the vanilla, but I feel that I wasn't willing to compromise on the net neutral cards like Crocodile and Moria for those slots, so I'm only going to be running 2 copies. Next, we are running a few events as well. Firstly, we are running 2 of the Gum Gum Red Rock. Red Rock is really good in the OP09 meta because it's very centered around large bodies. In 08 and 08.5, I think Gravity Blade may be a little bit better depending on how the meta turns out. If you've seen my meta video for OP08 and 8.5, actually a lot of the decks do still use large bodies. So I think in particular, Toning as well as Bonnie, they will be playing large bodies and that you do have to answer, especially that 9-cost Zoro. So I think it may be good to still run Red Rock in OP08, but in OP09 it's definitely a must-have. Next is 2 of Perfume Femmer. Perfume Femmer is it's a main event that gives a 7 Warlord of the Sea character or leader plus 2000 power, and when that character or leader attacks, your opponent cannot activate blockers. So it's really powerful. It helps you to close up games when your opponent is at 0 life. I'm running 2 copies, so it's even an option to end them from 1 life if they have 1 blocker, if they have a lot of blockers. So very good card. And then lastly, I'm running 2 one-offs. Firstly, 4-cost Pudding. I think in 09, it's a lot less popular to hoard hand cards. So most of the decks aren't really playing with like those 7, 8, 9 hand card type hands, which is why I think 1 copy is enough just to be able to punish if you ever find yourself in that situation, but you don't really need it as much. On top of that, a lot of people are very aware of the 4-cost Pudding and the threat that it provides, so many people are playing around it when they play against blue decks. So it's good to know how to do the psychological damage by just continuously asking for hand size when you have 4 down open. And then last but not least, of course, my pride and joy, my one-off Rush Usopp. I think it's really powerful as well when it comes to finishing games. Sometimes you really just need that 1 extra attack, and I think I will always be a proponent of playing at least 1 rush card in your deck. If you've seen my Cooking Every 07 meta list video, I think I've tried to maintain that in all of the decks. Even for the yellow decks, I have 1 rush 5-cost ace in there as well. So yeah, I think Rush Usopp is really good. It can definitely save you in a very clutch situation. If you have no other option and you have to go for lethal, it's always good to have that option of having an additional attack. That being said, that is the list. I think it's very straightforward and simple. Now I want to share with you the curve for the deck and how the deck usually functions, as well as some of the very powerful combos that you can play. First things first, we're going to talk about curve. So right now, I believe Doflamingo is a deck that wants to go second, mainly because of the very powerful curve options that it has. In the past, Doffy definitely wanted to go first instead, but I think right now going second is much more favorable. Now, the main curve that you go for is going second. On your first turn, you will do Singoku, and then a stacker like Perona or Buggy. So Singoku is primarily looking for Jimbe. When it comes to your mulligan criteria, if you have a hand with Jimbe, generally I would keep, as long as there is an additional Warlord in hand. Of course, if you're holding Jimbe plus 4 events, I would probably mulligan that, but generally the mulligan criteria is you're looking for Jimbe or a stacker, or a stacker in some form of good plays, but generally I will mulligan for Jimbe. So first 2-down play, Sengoku and then Perona. Make sure to do it in this order as well, Sengoku first and then Perona. Okay, then next on the 4-down turn, if you are able to Perona, generally what you're going to do is you're going to use your leader effect and then play whatever you stack on the top of your deck. However, if you don't have Perona or any form of stacker, a very good option is just to go Jinbei into something else. The primary candidate here is always going to be Weevil, just so you can draw back the cards. So that would be your 4-down turn. So 2 options. either leader effect for 8 or Jimbe into Weevil. Generally, you can also just swing 7 for the leader effect. In case the top of your deck is like the 4-cost Crocodile, then you can return whatever searcher you have on the board as well. Generally, if you swing 7, most people will take anyway for the first life. But again, this varies depending on the deck you're fighting against. Okay, now next is the 6 Dawn turn. For the 6 Dawn turn, the best possible play that you can make on 6 Dawn is Jinbe into Boa Hancock. Paying 4, getting 1 Dawn, putting it on your leader, and then looking at your top 3. I've not shuffled the deck, but anyway, look at the top 3, put the relevant warlord on top, and then you swing 7 into leader, and use your leader effect to play your character down. So this 6 Dawn turn is very standard, very powerful. One other very strong play is when your Jinbe is sent to the trash, you can always do things like play Moria, taking the Jinbe, and then play the Jinbe down to use the Jinbe's effect again. This is particularly good on the 10 Dawn turn, especially if you have a Boa Hancock in hand. So let's quickly show you the 8 Dawn turn first. For the 8 Dawn turn, generally this turn there's not that many different things that you can do. One common option is to just play double Jinbe, but by this point your board should have at least 3 characters already. So what you would usually do instead is just to put Dawn on your characters and attack, and then use your leader effect to play another character down. So this would put a lot of pressure on your opponent if you have this many Dawn and this many characters. If not, then you can always just choose to develop one character and use your leader effect as well. So for example, if you only have like 2 characters on board, you can do something like put 2 Dawn on a leader, swing 7, develop a character, then put 1 Dawn on something, swing with that. Or you can use a searcher or a stacker, and then you can play a 4-cost. So this is a very common curve as well. So let's use the other example that you played a stacker instead, or a searcher. But generally, in the later stages of the game with Doflamingo, instead of spending your Dawn on searchers, if you're not looking for Jinbe or anything in particular, it's better to just use your Dawn to attach to your characters and put pressure on them. Okay, lastly is the 10 Dawn turn. So for the 10 Dawn turn, one of the primary combos that you'll be doing is Boa into, look at the top 3, put 1 on leader, put 1 more on leader, use leader effect, swing, play something, and then play another 4-cost character. So this is a very standard 10 Dawn turn. One very good play you can do is if you have the Boa already in hand, and let's say you have Moria and you have Jinbe in trash, or maybe you have Jinbe in hand but Boa in trash, what you can do is to play Moria for 4, then grab whichever piece of this combo you're missing. In this case, let's say I'm missing the Jinbe, then I'll play Jinbe into Boa, and then attach 1 rested to leader, and then I will swing 7 and play another character. And by doing this way, with your 10 Dawn, you've managed to develop 3 to 4 characters, and this is not counting whatever characters you already have on the board. So of course, if you don't need to develop this additional 4-cost character, you can use those 4 Dawn to attach to your characters and swing to your opponent's face. So these are all really strong moves that Doflamingo can make. Generally, you will see endgame boards for Doflamingo looking something like this, where they have like a couple of 6k bodies, a couple of 5k bodies, and then all they need to do is just spread the Dawn out like this, and then they can swing at you 7k for 3 or 4 times, and then they can also swing and develop a body from the top of their deck depending on whether they've stacked it already or not. I think especially the Boa is really good because of how in these late game scenarios you are both developing a 6k body as well as making sure that your leader effect doesn't hit the wrong target. It actually gives you a character on the board, and it even sets you up for the following turn. If let's say you didn't have like a Weevil or a Crocodile on the top of your deck, you are setting up not just the current turn of leader effect, but the next turn as well. So that makes this card really powerful. Let's talk a little bit about the going first curve. I think when going first, the mulligan criteria is probably going to be a one cost play like Perona or Buggy. So Perona or Buggy would be valued a bit higher than Singoku in this case, so that on your 3 dawn turn, you can do Doffy swing into leader effect, play something down. Going first wise, I think is much weaker now because it is more reliant on this Perona so that you hit on your 3 dawn turn. Not only that, because your character comes in rested, immediately you are going to start taking damage on your hand cards, on your hand size. Whereas if you went second, normally you will be able to take the first 5k hit, and then that would help boost your hand size a bit, including the fact that you also draw an extra card. So this is a very simple 3 dawn turn. Notably, a lot of decks have cut 3 cost Doflamingo as well, because the card does seem to be a bit weaker compared to the rest of the bodies. The main reason is that the 4k body means that you can't really hit as efficiently. So that's why most decks you see have actually cut it in favor of just playing more 4 cost bodies. Now, for your 5 dawn turn, again, this is a bit of an awkward turn. Generally, you can just use Jimbe into something, and then use the remaining dawn to hit your opponent or play another searcher or a stacker. Alternatively, if you have something like the Law, you can use it to bounce your opponent's 4 costs as well as your searcher, and then replay the searcher with the remaining 1 dawn. So I feel this is one of the weaker turns for Doflamingo, because you do have to just play something raw, or you can just play something from your deck, but that does give you a few extra dawn that you may not have something to do very efficiently with. Now, next is the 7 dawn turn. This is a very standard turn. From the olden Doffy players, you will already know what to do here. Generally, you play a 4 cost, and then after that, you use the remaining dawn on your leader effect, and then play a character down. So very standard Doffy turn. Now, for the 9 dawn turn, again, it is a bit of an awkward number, because unless you have 2 Boas, you aren't really going to be able to play 2 characters as well as your leader effect. But if you do have 2 Boas, it is going to be very perfect, because at 9 dawn, you will pay 4 for the first Boa, look at your top 3, 4 for the second Boa, look at your top 3, and you will have 2 rested dawn on your leader. And then this lets you play a 7k swing and your body from the top of your deck. Not only that, you'll also be able to look 6 cards deep to find a Jimbe or any other relevant 4 cost body that you are looking for. So this is probably the ideal 9 dawn curve for Doflamingo. Alternatively, of course, you can just play a 4 cost, use your leader effect for 3, and then use the remaining dawn, 2 dawn to attach to characters and swing. So Doflamingo is actually very flexible when it comes to curve, because of the fact that all of the characters are just 4 cost. So you just think, okay, what can I do with 4 plus 3, and then leftover dawn. The main thing is that the Boa blocker giving a rested dawn makes it a lot more efficient, so you can do things like this double Boa combo on 9 dawn, or you can do a single Boa to give you your leader effect on the 6 dawn and the 10 dawn turns. All of that being said, I also want to talk about one common mistake that a lot of Doffy players may do. One common mistake is actually just using your stackers too often. So for example, let's say you used Law the previous turn and returned the Perona to hand. You have the choice here to swing 7k with one of your bodies, or to swing, let's see, okay, let's give a real life example. Let's say you have 5 dawn, okay, and your hand, let's say in your hand you have a Boa Hancock, right? So you have the option here to go 7k leader with leader effect, and then 7k with this 5k character, or you have the option to go 6k and then play a Perona or a Singoku. Generally, if you're not looking for any particular pieces and your next 2 turns or so are already planned out, it's actually better most times to just attach the Dawn and put more pressure on your opponent. This is also because we're looking at trying to make more efficient and more painful hits for your opponent. If they're able to count or to predict that you're going to be, oh, okay, 6k and then 7k, they are able to see that, oh, you're going to play a searcher, they'll just counter out of the 6k hit. And then that makes your attack and pressure a lot less. So make sure to think about when you want to drop your searchers as well as your stackers and play accordingly. If you have a boa in hand, it's better to just play the boa and then use that as your stacker rather than to keep forcing Peronas or Singokus on the board. Generally, these are not going to give you the pressure that you want. But bodies that have 5k base or higher, they will give you that pressure that you're looking for. Another common mistake that a lot of Doflamingo players do is when you already have 3 characters or 4 characters on board, what they'll do is they'll swing this way, swing everything, and then they will play a Jimbe from the top of their deck and then play another character over one of their current characters. So this is wasteful. Why? Because instead of putting the Jimbe there, if you had played a different character, you can keep the Jimbe in your hand instead. You can stack it such that the Jimbe goes to your hand instead. Play the new character down from the top of your deck. And then when your opponent goes to clear your board, you can let go more of them and play the Jimbe from your hand to refill your board. And most importantly, you keep your characters active so your opponent can't hit trade into them next turn. This is also important for when you have your 4-cost Moria in hand, so you can plan around which characters you want to take back the next turn. It's important to not see Jimbe as just, okay, I should always be playing down Jimbe, and to think more along the lines of, what is my opponent going to be doing the next turn? Is he going to be clearing my board? Should I be saving these Jimbes to use the next turn instead? One powerful example is, like I mentioned with the 9 Dawn turn example. If you are drawing well enough that you have double boa as well as double Jimbe in hand, it's possible for you to go 5 characters down on your 9 Dawn turn. And the 9 Dawn turn is important because, for example, if you're against Lucci, against Mirror, that turn is where your board is likely to be removed the most. So imagine if you're playing against a Doflamingo and then you just spent all of your 8 Dawn turn clearing the entire board. You've succeeded, you feel like you've gotten a bit of a breathing room, and then on the 9 Dawn turn, they show you Jinbe Boa, leader effect, swing 7k, play down something from top of deck. Suddenly, the board that you just cleared is full again and full of 6k bodies at that. One important thing to note for Doflamingo players is that leaving your characters active is actually very, very powerful. If you can leave them standing, your opponent cannot interact with them except for with KO effects. And KO effects wise, generally they can only remove 1, maybe 2 maximum. But this still leaves you 2 more bodies to put pressure on them the following turn. That's why the Jimbe is really important, because it gives you that additional body. Another reason why I played all the draw 1 cards at 4 is again because when your characters come in rested, you want to be able to protect them as much as possible, especially the characters with a 6k base. By protecting this character, imagine if they were to hit your leader instead. That would be 1k counter saved every time they hit at this character. That's why it's better to just protect your 6k characters instead. All that said, that's basically all of the tips and tricks I have for Doflamingo. I personally am not a professional Doflamingo player. I haven't played the deck very much, but I have been testing it a lot because it is the current meta deck. It's something that I have to be aware of the combos, aware of the most difficult things to play against and to play around, as well as to be aware of the combos that they have, the difficult plays that they can do, and how they can do a lot more damage to me. And it's also important for me to recognize if I'm beating a Doflamingo player, is it because they've misplayed, is it because they're playing poorly, so that I know how to tweak my gameplay such that I don't lose to better Doflamingo players. Hello friendos and randos, one last postscript that I wanted to mention, which is a way for people to kind of use a little trick to help them with remembering their top 5. So I use different Don, but you can also use the same Don for this. And just flip them upside down. So I'll just give you an example on both sides. So let's say you Perona on turn 1, and this is your top 5. Okay, so you have 4 warlords, right? So generally what you'll do is you'll draw, play, draw, play, draw. So just to memorize that, I also adjust my Don to match like which hits are warlords and which aren't warlords. So if I have my Doffy Don, in this case, let's say I have 4 warlords, I'll just remember, okay, 1 non-warlord and then the 4 warlords here. And then I'll put the Don at the side when I remember, okay, it's done. So this way I am able to keep track. Another way to make this even more clear is by flipping your Don upside down. So this is a trick that I've been using for a long time, ever since like the red green law days. So let's say top 5, right? So what I would do is I would flip my Don upside down if there was a hit. So in this case there's 4 warlords, so I would flip 4 upside down. Okay, and then I would separate them accordingly like this. So now I remember, okay, out of my next 5 cards, 4 of them are warlords. And then if I draw, then I will move it to the side when I do my leader effect. Pay 1. Okay. Then I know I only have 3 warlords left on top. So I will flip this one back face up again. So this is just a little trick that I've been using to help myself track for like more forgetful people. You can use it to kind of remember. And flipping your Don in your cost area is totally legal, so it's a good idea if you kind of struggle with tracking things like that. Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you stayed this far, it was really long. I think it covered most of what I know. I'm sure there are more talented as well as more familiar with the deck players than me, but if you liked it, make sure to drop a like, share it with your friends. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I will see you guys again next time. Peace out. Jimbe boa, Jimbe boa. I see this, I should do it.